Welcome, everybody, to the 15th edition of Speak Up. We have fantastic Jewish educators, counter-missionaries, influencers, people who care very much about the missionary efforts that are targeting the Jewish people. So today we have a super amazing guest that I'm really excited to introduce. We have William Hall from Tenak Talk. Now, I don't know if you know who William Hall is, but if you're involved in deprogramming from Christianity, I'm sure you've come across his YouTube channel. He runs Tenak Talk, where he interviews people like Rabbi Tovia Singer, Rabbi Federo, Rabbi Skobak, Slow Ride McBride. Who else do you have on your program, William?
You covered it. Well, we have Gabriel Sanders also is a great Hebrew teacher. Just a handful of surprise visitors as well. And in fact, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have you on soon. You don't know that yet, but
Sounds good. I was very excited to do this interview for a personal reason. I wanted to give you my personal thank you because you made a significant impact in my life. And I didn't mention it to Rabbi Singer, but most people who watch your program, they're coming out of Christianity and you answer a lot of questions for them. I appreciate Tenak Talk for a very different reason. Not only does it give me training to be able to address the situations that face the Jewish people, but I was also very debilitating sick for 4 years. And I was in tremendous pain. And the only thing that kept me going during that time was the endless hours that I spent watching Tenak Talk. It was like a bright spot in my life, intellectually stimulated me when I was unable to function. So thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you. Baruch Hashem. Thank you.
So how did you get involved in counter-missionary activities to start with? What's your story?
I had always been a teacher and in Christianity. I've been youth pastorship. I've done. I was never ordained as a minister, but we had a home church for a long time, and I'd always been the type to want to teach people, even with the things I do on work, like in construction. I like teaching people things, So whenever I was a Christian, I was just before, probably about a few years before I left Christianity for Messianic Christianity. So I wasn't completely out. But a few years before that, I was looking into doing a podcast because I had a friend of mine who was doing it. And I was thinking, that's what I need to be doing right there. I need to run a podcast. But that was years before Tenak Talk. And but that spark had already been there. And so after I had eventually left Christianity altogether, I was thinking, man, this thing is so, it was such a huge thing to find out that we've been lied to all of our Christian lives, that I wanted to be able to find out more. I wanted to, and it went straight to, at the time, I call Rabbi Singer the Elvis Presley of Judy, the Elvis Presley of counter missionary work. It's funny. He's the king of counter missionary work. So I reached out to him eventually and was asked him if he would be willing to come to our house, our personal house, because actually I was still having what we called home shul back then, back when we were Messianics. And after I decided to leave, I was like, man, I need to get Rabbi Singer here so he can like freak everybody out and they can go away, or they can embrace the Judaism that we know today.
Right.
And one thing led to another, and Rabbi, he was planning on coming, sent some books here, get it all ready, and then his flight got canceled, and he had to fly straight to Houston. And so I eventually followed him, went to Houston. We actually did that night, even though it was canceled, we did a live Q&A session here with all the people that was actually in my home, but we did it with him on the TV screen. And Rabbi had never done that before. I found out later. And so whenever we met in Houston, he was very blocked around by everybody, of course. And so I kind of had to push my way to get in there. But he had already engaged with me and he knew my face. He recognized me because of what we tried to arrange. And so he made it available for me to approach him. And then we kind of talked for a little while. And as we were walking out of HBU, which was the debate he did with, he's done a handful, I can't remember which one it was, but it was in Houston Baptist University. We were walking out to his car after we were done, and we're all going to go to Starbucks and hang out for a little while. And he told me, he said, William, he says, that thing we did at your house, with the Skype and the interview, he goes, man, can we do that like on a regular basis, like every week? And I was thinking, of course, I'm the type that always says yes and finds out later, And so I'm like, absolutely we can. I'm like, I got this, which I'd had nothing. I didn't know squat about nothing. And so, but I was like, we're going to do this. I'm going to make it happen somehow. So a buddy of mine who I just recently met, also, they just found out about Rabbi Singer. So we had become friends. And when I told him about everything, he says, William, he goes, You ain't got to say a word. I got it. I got it figured out. So within a week, he created a website. He picked the name Tenak Talk, It was spelled Tenak, because he said at the time the website wasn't available at the time to have the right spelling. And so we stuck with Tenak Talk, which worked. And then he got the phone number, the 855-95 Bible. He got all of that laid out. And like within a week, we were ready to do a recording. So, November of 2014. The thing was in August, but September. Okay, so about 3 months later, we had our first show in 2014, and that's kind of how it all started.
But we're skipping some major steps here. How did you get from being a Christian to not being a Christian? You were raised in Christianity, like you were born, your whole family was Christian?
My biological father was a pastor. I'm speaking all biologicals. My father, grandfather, all my brothers were all Christians and either teachers or evangelists or something. My uncle John, pastor. I wasn't raised with them, but when I was 16, I ran away from my step family, which is very. That's a whole other story. I want to get to that. They weren't godly at all. So one time when I was 9, when I lived with them, for some reason, I wanted to go to church just because I heard someone else was going. I was like, I'm going to go. And I got there and I had this really emotional experience. And then that was the last time I went to church from 9 years old all the way up until I was 16, 17 years old when I actually went to go find my dad. And then so when I was 17, I moved in with my dad, and they were going to church like 3 nights a week. So I went from not going to church at all to going 3 nights a week, and it was a bit overwhelming. So I'd left there for a little while. I ran away from home because my dad was well, we just didn't get along. I'll put it that way. And all that hyper religious stuff was like, it was overwhelming for me. And my dad at the time was, when I first moved there, he wasn't so much Messianic. He was trying to figure it out. He started learning Hebrew. He became a Hebrew, a Messianic teacher of the New Testament. He referred to himself as a rabbi. Of course, we know better, but still. But we weren't really super close because of all that. But still, sorry about that. It hit a little trigger. So he was a Messianic teacher then, and so what brought me out was eventually. When I turned about 19, 20 years old, I've started wanting to get more serious about God. And my stepdad my real dad kept trying to say, man, you need to learn Hebrew. He was a Messianic teacher. And he said, you need to learn Hebrew, son. And I'm like, I would keep hanging. I would say, I got to go, got to run. Wasn't interested. Well, after a while, I became interested because I just wanted to know more. I want to know I didn't want to just follow it because people said so. And so, I eventually decided I'm going to start keeping Shabbat or observing the proper day of the week for Shabbat. I'll put it that way, and which obviously is Saturday. And at that time, I'd moved here into the neighboring town to where I'm at now, going to church with my brother. But this is before we came out, and right after, and we were going there. At the time, they had Saturday services, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday services. And I was like, we were going to Sunday because that's just what we did. Well, when I decided, man, I need to start going on Saturday. This is huge for me. The very next weekend, they canceled the Saturday services. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I'm not supposed to be there on Saturday. I don't get what's going on here. I was always about signs and really paying attention to, as some would say, how the stars line up. I'm not an astrologist. That's not what I mean.
God laid it on your heart.
Yep. I had no other choice at that point but to go find my dad. And because he was the only place I knew that actually did their worship services on Saturdays. And so I went. And then when I was there for 3 years. And I started learning Hebrew, and I started just studying things out. I was still doing home services at our house like once a month, and we had people. I was teaching Hebrew. I was teaching what Hebrew I did know to a lot of the people who were in our Messianic home group. Long story short, Passover is actually what triggered it for me at the end of the day. It was all about Passover because the New Testament associates that with Easter. And of course, we all know there's no connection for a sin sacrifice or sin at all regarding Passover, but that's what Christians like to make you think. So I tried to host 3 years in a row. The first year, I was like, when I first noticed the problem, I was like, whoa, something's not matching up right. Just after I started learning Hebrew and I started asking questions to the right people. And I got into some issues with that. Like, how does this work with the whole Jesus thing? So I called some local Messianic leaders of this area. at this point in time, me and my dad weren't talking at all because of just some other issues that had happened with the family. And so I was asking some pretty big name people, even on Facebook. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he was pretty well known. And they kept giving me the same answers I already knew. I'm like, thank you, but no thank you. So that first year, I was like, I'm just going to skip that part. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll just skip that part and move right on into reading, reading the whole thing. So the following year came up, and when my thought was I'll just study it next year, and then next year I'll have a better piece together. So the next year came around, same problem. Asking the questions to different people and the same, hoping they come up with something new, something that made sense. And it was the same thing again. So the third year Passover came around, and yeah, it was the third year Passover came around, and I actually just canceled. I said, it's off. We're done. I'm not hosting Passover. And so that's when I met my friends, who actually, Travis Wirtz is the guy who actually built Tanakh Talk for me as like, here it is. Here's what you want to take it. His name is Travis Wirtz, a great friend. Him and his wife at the time, when they just found out that I was hosting the Passover, and when I told them I was canceling it, they were like, well, why are you canceling it? And I told them just basically what it was. And somehow or another, I felt urged to mention Tovia Singer, and they were like, dude, no way. We know him. I was like, what a small world.
When did you discover Rabbi Singer? Like, how did you come across him?
I came across him because a friend of mine who went to my dad's, he's like 38 now, but he was actually bar mitzvahed in my dad's Messianic home church thing, the synagogue thing. And anyway, so he moved to Israel with his dad about 10, 15 years ago. And once he was there, that's when he figured out that the whole New Testament and the Yashke stuff is all way out of whack. Sorry if my eyes are drifting. I've got two cameras here, one here and one here. So I'm kind of going back and forth to share. So anyway, so he's the one who first dropped the word Tovia Singer in my lap. And he said, because I would constantly talk to him, say, hey man, blah, blah, blah. And I had figured out by then that he was going to convert to Judaism. And I was thinking, that's my friend. I need to try to, pick his brain a little bit, find out what's going on, more so to kind of give him reasons to not leave the whole Yeshua thing. And he mentioned Tovia Singer, and he didn't tell me why. And so I looked him up, and I was like, oh, no, I'm not going there. No way. I was like, and that's how most Christians are today. As soon as they hear Tovia Singer, they're like, run from Tovia Singer. And it took me a little while it probably took me 6 months to finally, after communicating with my friend Lon, which is the guy I'm referring to, the one who moved to Israel, referring back and forth to phone calls, and he kept mentioning it. And I said, finally, I just decided, after I started realizing this Passover thing was a problem, I was like, I'm going to see what he has to say. And that was it. I was hooked. I was like, right away, I was like, oh my God.
So once you started listening to him, it was like instantly, oh my gosh, I'm living a lie. And you just like disconnected, or it was like really a slow process? It was
kind of a slow process because I didn't want to jump the gun just because somebody said this. I wanted to research it myself. And so, so I started researching myself. My wife picked up on it, and we've been married now for 24 years. She picked up on it. Of course, she picked up on me leaving the whole Jesus thing behind whenever I removed the name Yeshua out of all of our prayers, pardon me, out of all the prayers that we had. And she didn't say anything, but the people who were coming to our home church at the time, we called it our little Messianic synagogue, our little home church at the time, they were picking up on it too. And most of them just quit coming when they noticed it. The others, the few that didn't leave right away, were bold enough to ask me, hey, what's up? And so I kind of beat around the bush a little bit and said, well, we're just going to kind of keep it. I'm going to focus on God, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so all that happened. And as a progression of time, they stopped coming, and I canceled the Hebrew class, which we did on Thursday nights. But a couple of people said they wanted to keep, even though they knew that we were leaving the New Testament behind, they wanted to keep learning Hebrew. And so I was like, okay, for a little while we kept it, but at the end of the day, I had to stop because I knew what their intentions were, and I didn't want to share in giving them fuel for what they believed in. So
let's now switch over to the missionaries who are targeting the Jewish community in general. When you were growing up, or I guess once you became heavily involved in Christianity, did you find that there was some kind of push towards proselytizing Jewish people? Was there an intense focus in the Messianic community that you were involved in?
In the Messianic community, yes. Of course, I only had that for 3 years, and that was from like 2010 to 2014, maybe 3.5 years. And it wasn't a huge push. It was just more of be more aware when you're around Jewish people, make sure to share the faith. And when I was in the Christian community, they never really talked about it because we didn't really know any people in the areas that I've been in that were not populated with Jewish people. So it wasn't even a
Mm-hmm.
conversation. So whenever when up, they would say to the Jew first and then to the Greek, like the New Testament talks about.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't a huge thing. My first real awkward encounter with a anti-Semitic person happened when I was Messianic. And the only reason it got brought up because at the time I was wearing the kippah, I was wearing the tzitzit, and like trying to be a legit Messianic Jew, if you want to call it that. And I was actually on a job site, and this window washer guy, who I'd known for a little while, was all used to be like really nice. He just came. He asked me about me why I was wearing the stuff, and I told him, and he just immediately started like talking smack about Judaism and all this other stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you tell me that you say you love Israel, but you don't like the Jewish people? He goes, oh, I love the Jewish people, but, and he kept going on saying hateful things about them. I'm like, so I came to the quick realization that most people say that they love Israel. They mean the land. They don't mean the people, unfortunately. And it's still an issue today whenever I have seen people say and discuss things, even on Facebook, where they will discuss matters regarding Judaism. And it's like, oh, we support Israel. And then you mention anything about a Jewish person or doing whatever, they tend to get turned off. And I'm thinking, I think they're just
Mm-hmm.
really misled.
What is it that you think fuels them? I mean, Christians say that the New Testament is not anti-Semitic. When you were a Christian, did you feel the New Testament was anti-Semitic? And now, from the outside, what's your opinion?
I understand, but I didn't get it back then because I didn't. I guess if I had known some Jewish people, I probably would have paid attention to it more, but I didn't. To me, Jewish people was like at the time, I didn't even know what the difference between Judaism and Islam was. I just knew that they were not Christian. In fact, I know some people even today who've been Christian for a long time, and they kind of associate Judaism with Islam, like with Muslims and stuff. I'm like,
Interesting.
that's not the same at all. I'm like, what the heck? Who knows? Maybe there's something there for all we know.
When you read the New Testament as a Christian, did you feel that there was
Got it.
anti-Jewish bias? Or did
Got
you
it.
feel like, oh no, it's everything's kosher, everything's fine? And then from the flip side, now that you're outside of Christianity, do you feel that the New Testament has anti-Semitic messages inside of it?
Absolutely. It was an up and down for me. First, it was anti-Semitic. Yes, to talk about the synagogue of Satan and any really Jewish term in there it just seemed to have a negative connotation to it. And then when I became Messianic Christian, I was thinking, well, maybe it's not because most Christians misunderstand the New Testament in a way that the Messianics have an understanding of it that makes more sense. Even now, I still think that because there's a lot of pro Torah things in the New Testament, but there's too many anti-Torah things in the New Testament too. So, and then when I left the Messianic and just became a righteous Gentile and started teaching and hosting all these shows, I'm looking at it more and more, and I'm thinking, oh boy, yeah, buddy, it's like it's bad. It's so bad. It's so bad.
So
Painfully
when
bad.
you see missionaries, like they're flooding Israel now. They're just
Mm-hmm.
all over the place. They're volunteering to rebuild the kibbutzim that were attacked on October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
They're arranging amusement parks for kids. They're just all over the place, like gushing love towards the Jewish people. Do you think that's authentic love, or do you think it's coming
No,
from ulterior motives?
no, I think it's absolutely coming from ulterior motives, 100%. I believe because one of the biggest things that we learned at the evangelical churches I was at was friendship evangelism. You become their friend and you be nice to them, and then you gain their trust, and then you start witnessing to them. You start trying to incorporate change. And I believe I believe a lot of them are doing it because they feel like it's the right thing to do. Like people who run organizations that are in Israel, they will bait Christians who know nothing about it, saying, do the right thing, support Israel. But the organization's goal is very tainted. It's very tainted. But the people are giving innocently to support it because they think they're doing a good thing
Wow.
by supporting Israel and by supporting the Jewish people.
Wow. Wow. Why is it so important for them to reach the Jewish people? What do you think their underlying motive is?
Well, I mean, I think Paul said that it was to the Jew first and then to the Greek. Of course, he later changed that, but I think that's really the thing. I think it's a big thing where they're just trying to do. Was it Paul? I think Paul said it or Jesus. I don't remember who said that now. It's been so long since I've actually studied the New Testament. Thank God. It's one of those things. It's like a memory you wish you never had. Yeah, I hate to say that, but it's kind of yeah.
Wow,
And I
you went
don't
from one
mean that to
extreme to the
be
other.
and I don't mean that to be mean or rude, but seriously, I mean, um, now like if we're out in somewhere and I hear a Christmas song, I just cringe. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we used to be there. I'm never
Baruch
disrespecting
Hashem.
people, but it's just it hurts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Um, so let's talk about creating a safe space for the Jewish people. There are so many people that are just being, attacked by these missionaries, but not like attacked physically. It's not like the Inquisition. It's not like the Crusades, like you
Right.
explained. It's more of like relationship building. What do you
Sure.
think a safe boundary is for the Jewish people, or I guess anybody? Also, I mean, we want B'nai Noach. We want everybody to recognize the truth of God and who Hashem is, and come to serve the one God of Israel. What do you feel a safe boundary is with the evangelical community?
Well, first of all, I think just to kind of wrap my head around the entire picture, before the internet age, in the '90s, there really wasn't a danger except for people who were willing to drive and go from point A to point B. But now that the internet's here and information is so readily available, and all these groups are available, and people are able to comment and join and interact with people they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. Um, the Jewish people did what they needed to do. They had yeshiva, and then to learn the prophets and all this other stuff, they do their thing with going to shul and things like that, and kind of keep to themselves. Now after the '90s or whatever, a huge
Mm,
flux of this Noahide movement has come out, which is amazing, yeah, really amazing. But with that, came a burden of like church people seeing these people leaving the church and wanting to save them, and then it kind of forces a whole flux of it's like a vacuum pulling them all to focus on Jews. And so back in the day, I think just teaching only the people in the synagogue Torah, and when they have their special classes for prophets and whatever, that people would do that. That's great, their home studies. But now, because of the internet and because there's so much going on with easy communication, like uncharted, it's like unbelievably anybody can go anywhere they want to virtually and infiltrate just through conversation, through friendship evangelism, whatever. I think that now is really a time as a need more than ever for the synagogues to start understanding the dangers that Christianity provides or is putting out there for these synagogues. I know people personally. I know two couples specifically who faked being Jewish. They lived a Jewish life, but they faked not
mm.
believing in Yeshua so good they even went through conversion. I even warned. I went to
Wow.
because of guidance. Somebody guided me that I should go to that synagogue they were at and let them know that these people are secretly messianic. And I think it just got brushed off because they're just not used to. They're like, "What? No way!" And they just kind of brushed me off. I was like, "Okay, wow." So, but this is going on. People are moving into the Messianic movement, and then they want more. They want to be part of Israel and be identified as a Jew, like through Israel. So they will go to the ends of the world to even denying their faith, which is really ridiculous in my opinion, because the New Testament literally Jesus said, "If you deny me before man, I'll deny you before my Father." I'm thinking, so maybe they don't believe Jesus actually said that. I don't know, but they do. They will deny down to blood and bone that they are not messianic, but they truly are, and they have no problem with that. And that's how a lot of these people are coming in and sneaking past the based in and getting their and then they'll start teaching. Like there's been a few caught by or exposed by Benenu, Shannon Newson, and her group,
Right.
where they found people who were official rabbis in Israel, and they dug up some stuff and found out they're not Orthodox Jews at all. They were Messianics that were secretly, and they bypassed radar and got converted, and then they started teaching people, and now they're starting to leak in all this Messianic garbage. So I think that going full circle again, I really believe that every synagogue should have some way of teaching counter missionary tactics, so that
Oh,
when
wow.
they are approached, because they'll go for the kids. That's why I think it's a great thing that it's illegal in Israel for them to proselytize the children, you know. And it's like,
what methods did they use to proselytize children?
oh, just they'll, I mean, they will. You talking about the Christian church, right?
Yeah, yeah, in general, like
When I say
evangelicals.
children, when I say children, I don't mean like preteens and younger. I mean like high schoolers or people
Hmm.
who junior high age kids, whatever. One friend will invite their second door neighbor to a Halloween party, and they get there and they found out it's actually a church Halloween party, and next thing you know, they're witnessing to her, separate from the parents, and
Right.
stuff like that. And it's like there's you name it. It's really um the top is completely open on that. I mean, there's just unlimited. It's limited to their creativity. I'll just put it that way. I mean,
Hmm.
I can like dances. They'll have like a Valentine's dance, and you think it's all innocent, and then you find out it's actually a church function, and so everybody and the kids at church are expressed, hey, if you have neighbors who don't go to church, go invite them to this party. They're going to love it. And it's like, so the kids will do it innocently, but the churches know what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's all about increasing numbers in the church.
They want to get that emotional involvement, and then the person will be open to receiving anything.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
It's all about
What do you think
emotion.
is the most What do you think is the most deceptive tactic that you've heard of an evangelical using
Oh,
in
it's the
order
fear.
to reach somebody?
It's the fear of hell. I mean, they say, you broke one law, you've broken them all, and the only way to pay for that is to die. And so Jesus died for
Mhm.
your sins, so you don't have to die. Love this guy, boom, you're in love, and now you're hooked for life because you're afraid of going to hell in this place that they've created or have used from Dante's Inferno or wherever it came from, as a fear tactic, and it works. And then the second one, I would say they really provoke people who have been emotionally damaged, and or
Mhm.
because they've done so many really really bad things, whether it means murder or whatever it is, drugs or
Mhm.
adultery, and they'll bring them in and say, because they're carrying a guilt, and they say, well, you can get rid of that guilt
Right.
just by believing in Jesus, and then they believe it, so they don't feel guilty anymore because they really believe what they told them, and so that's just like it's a big hook also, and I'm
Yeah.
sure there's others, but those are two big ones, I think.
Wow. And I guess any trauma that a person goes through, it automatically makes them more willing to search and willing to accept, which
Absolutely.
would explain why there's a huge influx of missionaries now since October 7th. They're just like all over the place,
Wow.
forming relationships with survivors and everything. It's very, very painful to see. What do you enjoy the most about your channel? What is the thing that you have seen over the years that just really speaks to your heart?
Honestly, and this is weird, but it's like I'm staring at a camera screen, and it's like everybody else is watching me on YouTube, and for me, it's a for me, what I get most out of this is that I feel like I've just got the best teachers, and it's like I'm their only student, even though I know not, but I'm the only one in the classroom. I'm the only one here, and I'm talking with them, and then we're exchanging conversations, and I really appreciate just the support and the laughter and the love and the education that's coming from all this. But I don't see what goes out there in the world, like where everybody else is watching YouTube. Watching the YouTube video, I have YouTube video up on screen, but the only thing I've got setting up is the chat because I have to be part of monitoring
Mm-hmm,
chat in case
mm-hmm,
some people come in that are really being disrespectful. Um, so for me, later on, finding out how many people who have been blessed by the channel, it's very humbling. It's when I first started this thing, I just knew. I never thought numbers, I never thought views because I didn't know anything about that. I just knew what I had to do, and that was once this thing was approved with Rabbi Singer and he has to do this. I just knew that this thing I needed. This was the time. I've been wanting to do it for years with the podcast, and it's like, wow, this thing might actually happen. So,
wow.
all I had on my mind was just it's like now, even now, it's like I have an obligation. It's like whenever if we ever have a canceled show, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? I feel like I'm a fish out of water. I feel like it's like you took off of work and you called in sick when you weren't sick, and I'm sitting here at home going, not recording. I'm like, maybe I should put up another show. I don't know. I just feel this urgency to keep pushing out content, you know. And of course, all the teachers are amazing. Starting with Rabbi Singer and then Rabbi Skobach, Rabbi Federo. I've had other rabbis over the years, like we mentioned too, with Gabriel Sanders, brilliant, brilliant Hebrew teacher, by the way. We just started a new course on the channel as well, and then Yeah, testimonials. The testimonials are great. I actually, I enjoy, for me, the testimonials because I'm finding people who were not armchair scholars or not just casual Christians, but people who went to school to, to Light for the Nations. I mean, college is designed to build missionaries, and
Right.
who were actually preachers and evangelists, and for like 30, 40 plus years coming out. Yeah.
Wow, that's massive. Now, I'm going back to education. Like you're talking about these fantastic educators who really take you deep into the Tanakh. I'm thinking, did
Yes.
you have that experience inside of the Christian world? Like when you ask questions, what was the response to you asking questions and digging deep?
Oh, there was no digging deep there. In fact, looking back, I can't remember a single time, even when they would do a word study, it was all built on emotions and experiences and play on words. There really was no depth until I left the New Testament. I mean, they think there's depth, even when they do these special courses. Like for example, one church I had gone to had a church on the Holy Spirit and how to speak in tongues, believe that or not. And they would literally coax you and try to get you to say the first sound that comes to your mind, even if it sounds like baby language. And so they will make you say baby sounds to try to trigger something. And I'm thinking, oh my Lord, this thing is. And for me, that was very discouraging because I was like, I thought based on what I had thought about the Holy Spirit that it was supposed to be natural, not somebody's going to tell you how to do it, you know. And so but everything that they taught was, looking back, they would, if they studied a psalm, for example, it was never one of the good ones. It was always something silly, and they would connect it to the New Testament. Everything's connected to the New Testament, everything. And then usually when they do that, it's not like a series of passages. It's actually one verse here, or a word that's in a verse, doing a word study here and explain it away using the New Testament. And so you were never able to go in deep using, in any Christian
Mm.
teaching I've ever been to. Even when I had some people who were supposed scholars, they all they did was Christianize everything that they've ever heard, and that's as far as it got.
Wow, I guess that's why Rabbi Singer says that education is the solution. And if it's not the solution, then he's
Hmm.
doing everything wrong. And obviously, it is a solution because from your channel alone, I'm sure hundreds of thousands of people have left the church. It's just people are waking up, thank God.
Yeah,
But
Baruch
now
Hashem.
there's this threat that, I had recently I had missionaries who infiltrated the JCC where I lived,
Mm.
and they were approaching people who were very ill towards the end of their life, trying to convert them to
Oh, well, yeah.
Christianity.
There you go.
Somebody sent a question. Let's see what that is. How do you find the community with other Noachides, especially when you have young children and the communities around you are are surrounded are Christians and Jewish? I see only churches and synagogues. Oh, so do you have any advice for the Noachides?
For the only thing that I can offer somebody who doesn't live in an area that is, would cater to that is you're going to have to join some online support groups. That's the best way because, you can actually communicate with the people, like on Facebook, or well, Facebook's really the only one I know because I don't do a lot of other things. This, in fact, I need to get back into Instagram and things again. But you can join groups. In fact, I've got a group on one of my groups. It's called Tanakh Talkers around the world, and the whole purpose of that group was people could join it and find out what towns people live in. Maybe they can, sync up somehow. And I think the group's been a little helpful. I'm not sure if it's a private group or not. I think it might be. So it might be an invitation only, but something like that, I would recommend get, because you don't want to be isolated. Isolation just causes your brain sometimes to go in the wrong place, especially if you're feeling like you're all alone. And you definitely are if you're not part of a social group that supports your belief system, or have a community that you can actually go to and be a part of. You could also look up, and go to. I would recommend going to a synagogue on Shabbat, and just, like Rabbi said, don't volunteer any information. If they ask you, then you just tell them, hey, I used to be a Christian. I don't believe in that New Testament stuff at all anymore, and I just want to learn what the real truth is. And he said usually they won't have a problem with that. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
All right, another question for you. Do you believe in honest friendship and partnership between Christian missionaries and Jewish religious leaders? Is that possible? Should, rabbis be partnering together with Christian
Absolutely not.
leaders?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Why? What is a danger?
Unless they're your family member, in which they know you and they know you, and you know them, know them. I wouldn't partner with anybody who is in the Christian or Messianic movement at all, because the ultimate, I'm telling you, friendship evangelism, they say, is the most powerful form of evangelism. They all believe that.
Hmm.
But I would
It's
avoid
not
that.
the street preachers, you say?
No, no. Like I used to be a street preacher too. That was nothing. I don't know if I told you that, but I was a street preacher at one time. So yeah, the street preachers you don't have to worry about, because they usually deal with people that they only see once in like big cities like Austin, Texas, where they got
Hmm.
4 million people, and you stand on the street corner, you can scream and yell and spit and do whatever, you're going to hell or whatever, fire and brimstone. And it's like, you'll probably never see those people again. So those aren't
Hmm.
the ones you have to worry
Hmm.
about.
Wow. Let me ask you a question. How did you get over that fear of hell? Because I find that's one of the things that, automatically when somebody's leaving the church, or let's say a missionary is approaching a Jewish person who's in a traumatic state, and they tell them, well, you better repent now, otherwise you're going to hell. Like, how do you deprogram from that fear of hell?
Hmm. That was strangely enough, that part, for whatever reason, never really stuck with me too hard. And it could be, in fact, I had a friend of mine, I just did an interview, testimonial of a guy who is the father of an American Idol superstar. She's a country music singer now, but her dad, his name is Blaze Barrett. He's awesome. Gabby Barrett's dad. Anyway, we talk about, God, 100 times a week. We become really good friends. He said, "Have you ever thought that what allowed you to leave the church so easily?" Because he knows my past is the abuse that I went through as a child and the neglect. And um, I think he's right. I think because I went through all that myself, I think that when I found out that this whole thing, and the fear of hell didn't bother me, because it's like my childhood was definitely not a piece of heaven at all. It was horrible. And so I think the fear of hell didn't scare me as much as it did a lot of people. Um, and death didn't really bother me. I just my brain was just different, I guess, in that regard. But he did. He said, "Do you think it's possible that you were able to leave so easily because you were so emotionally disconnected already, even from the ones that
Hmm.
said they loved you?" So
Wow. 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 So let's go back to the relationship between Christians who are trying to form connections with the Jewish community. I had a pastor reach out to me recently, and he's like, I don't understand why you're not accepting our support. I don't understand why you Jewish people are building fences, why you're keeping us at an arm's distance. Nobody likes you except for us. The Muslims just want to kill you, and we're the only ones there for you. So they're like saying, you have to embrace us because you don't have support otherwise. And they say, we just want to work with you politically. We just want to give you money. We just want to fund you. So on a leadership level, let's say you have a rabbi and a pastor who form some kind of union, and everything seems kosher, above board, everything seems fine. Do you think that even if the leadership, they keep it very just respectful, do you think there's stuff going on behind the scenes that, let's say the rabbi wouldn't be aware of? Do you think they would be targeting the most vulnerable? They would be avoiding the leadership and going and targeting people who the rabbi's not even realizing? Do they target specific people in the community?
let me say it this way. Do I believe that all churches are the same, that all of them are going to do that? I would say 99%, 99.9% probably, for sure. Is there one church out there that might actually don't care about whether you're Jewish or not and don't care about converting you? That's possible, but not likely. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I even had somebody, this isn't regarding the Christian movement, but it's idealistically the same. I had somebody wanted to give his testimony on my show, and I agreed. Like, okay, cool. And as soon as I did, he took that video and he posted it
Oh, wow.
all over these places to say, "See, you can trust me. I've been on Tanakh Talk." Right? That concept still exists also with Judaism. Like, you can trust me. We actually support your synagogue. So I just don't. I personally don't believe that any kind of business venture, whether it's profit or nonprofit, should go on between. If church wants to donate to you anonymously, then take it. But if they want to put their name on it and say, "Hey, please reach out to us," no, I mean, I would turn it down, or just or take it and ghost them. There's no good intent for any church to be reaching out to Jewish people except for one reason and one reason only. And I will say that again, only one reason and one reason only, and that is to preach the gospel and to get the Jewish people saved, guaranteed, because it's in their New Testament.
Wow. And it's not just somebody who was raised in the middle of Williamsburg, Brooklyn, who's saying that. It's somebody who's been on the inside, somebody who's seen the other side who's saying that. I think that carries tremendous weight. Now it's not a joke. Unfortunately, people are just like, oh, thank God for the Christians who are embracing us and supporting us. And people are just not realizing the danger. So, William, what you're doing is you're raising tremendous awareness and you're making people wake up. And that's why we're speaking up today. Are there any other questions from the audience? Anybody have something that they'd like to ask William? It's a tremendous thing to have him on today.
I didn't realize I could
Let's
see the
see.
chat too, but it says, what are the most common tricks, lies Christians use in debates with Rabbi Singer? One thing that blew my mind was with the debate that Rabbi Singer had with Rod Solberg. Rob Solberg, I think is his name, professor.
Solberg, yeah, the guy with the curly hair, right?
I found out later that he had actually prepped for that interview with Dr. I won't say his name, and with a couple others on how to respond, like a Sid Roth thing, where he says how to save a Jewish person, or how to Sid Roth had a book. It was all dedicated on how to speak properly to a Jewish person to get them saved, right? And so, which is another huge problem. So, but anyway, so I found out that he prepped. He actually went and had all these things that he was told to say, not stuff out of his own brain, not what he learned, but what he was told to say about all these people using the midrash and all this other stuff. And for me, I find that so incredibly dishonest, because if I want to debate somebody, I want to know what he thinks. I want to know what you think. Why do you believe? Why does so-and-so believe, but why do you believe this? And I find it's very tricky. They will definitely use, they like using when they can't get their way or prove their point using their New Testament. They will try to use the midrash stories from the Talmud or whatever, or say that the Rambam said this, and they'll try to use that to derail this or to convince the audience that we don't know what we're talking about. And it's easy to prepare a tricky thing and not have the other person like myself or someone else to answer it, because we weren't expecting that question. If I was, I could look it up and tell you the answer. And that's for me, that's just playing dirty.
Somebody asked, why do Christians see so many types for Jesus in the Old Testament? Typology. Like they go back and they look at Joseph and they say, oh, this is a type of Jesus. Why do you think they have to resort to that tactic?
Why do they do it, or why are they able to do it?
Why do they do it?
Well, for they do it because deep down, and I'm certain that all the Christian scholars know this. They don't teach this. Or if they don't know this, then they really are just blinded by passion or whatever. But deep down, that's because there isn't anything about Jesus, and so they have to find something to connect him with. I could drive down the street here and say, look at those telephone poles. They're looking in the shape of a cross. That just tells you how Christian this town is. I mean, it's nonsensical. No one would do that. But that's what they do with the New Testament. You know what I mean? And they do it because they have to. That's really the only way they could pull this whole thing off. Because there's nothing there about Jesus. There's not one single prophecy that Jesus fulfilled anywhere. And I used to think that he fulfilled some and he's going to fulfill the rest when he comes back, but that's not the case. There's nothing about him at all. So they have to come up with all these typologies to make it work.
I definitely agree with you. Here's another question. It's a really good one, and I'm sure that after spending so many years learning about this, you're gonna have a really good answer for us. How is it possible that the church, the higher ups, right, the people who are running the whole show, and they're supposedly deeply engaged in the study of Tanakh, how is it possible that they can still walk away believing in Jesus as the Messiah and Lord and Savior? He said, for the average person, he understands it's somebody who just doesn't have a lot of information. But for people, let's say the Bible translators, that sort of thing, how can they walk away saying that they believe in Jesus?
Dual prophecy. It's very simple. They believe that everything can have two meanings, and the Jewish people only see one side of it. Plain and simple. Yeah, I know people, pastors of a church in Tennessee that we used to go to. Now it's kind of a mega church now, and his I'll never forget his name because he's a country music singer's name is Pastor Alan Jackson. And him and his younger brother, Phil, would go every year to Israel for like a month and just study and be in the environment and talk to Jewish people and all this other stuff. And my wife is like, how can they go there and they kind of know the language a little bit and still not believe? It's because their motives are off. Their motive wasn't to go there to find out truth. Their motive was there to go find out more and more things exciting things to share with their church when they come back home and have the opportunity to preach the gospel to Jewish people. That's like putting notches in your belt for an evangelist is how many Jewish people have you saved? That's a big thing too. So I really think that's the main reason.
Mm-hmm. It's not that they're searching for truth; it's that they're searching for ways to bolster their beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely,
Kind of
and also, like I said, and to try to be more convincing the next time to the Jewish people. So
right. Okay, another question: are the 13 principles of faith even familiar to Christian missionaries?
More moral things that are moral are the main primary things. The belief in God's absolute unparalleled unity. They would look at that different way. Unity with what? Oh, unity with, there's a Trinity, and then the unity with all these other things. If there is, it's tainted. Belief in the prophecy of Moses? No, they don't. In all the churching I've been to, and I've been to a lot, I've been involved in a handful of churches of different kinds over the years. They don't focus on prophecy at all, and when they do, it's the real simple, basic ones like Isaiah 53, which is my gosh, that's the easiest one in the world to debunk. I mean, it literally says Isaiah 53:9 literally says opposite of what happened to Jesus. I mean, complete opposite. Jesus died between two thieves. Well, Isaiah 53:9 says that he will die. His death will be with the rich. And then Jesus was buried in a rich man's tomb. But here it says his grave was with the wicked. I'm like, really? How can you get past that and still believe that that's talking about Jesus? It doesn't make any sense to me. But that's because they don't proofread that stuff. They will take a concept or maybe they'll pick a single verse out of Tanakh called cherry picking, whatever, and they'll build a whole like sermon after sermon on this one verse, and they never really study Tanakh. That's just how that works. They believe that God communicates with man through prophecy. They believe that anybody can have to get the prophecy, and there's really all you have to do is have someone else to say, "Hey, he's a prophet. Bring him to your church." They don't proof it. They don't vet nothing like that. They don't see. That's just everything for them. They believe that the Holy Spirit talks to them like daily. Like they could be driving down the street. Oh, the Holy Spirit just told me to give that man a hot dog. I'm like, dude, feed the poor. Come on, really? That was the whole.
It's like a conscience. Hello.
Took the Holy Spirit to give you that, man. You must be a really cold person inside. So anyway, wow. Yeah. So that Satan's hiding under every bush, and God speaks to him. God speaks to him about everything.
Wow. Okay, how do they not understand that we're not interested in proselytizing? Let's say they know the Jewish people have resistance towards missionaries coming towards them. What do they feel about that? Like they make these mega conferences like the Lausanne conference. They don't see it, that we're insulted by it. They don't feel that it's an affront to us, or they just don't care.
Here's what proselytizing is. People ask me all the time, why don't the Jews proselytize? And the answer is super simple. And they would say, well, aren't they supposed to be a light to the nations? I'm like, yeah, but if use that, just the analogy of a flashlight. Let's say I've got a really bright, powerful flashlight that can shine for miles, right? And let's say I'm walking out at nighttime and I shine my light into the neighbor's house. What's going to happen? They're going to call the cops on me. Why? Because that's wrong. You can't do that. Proselytizing, that's what proselytizing is putting your mouth where it doesn't belong, right? Giving your thoughts in your brain, forcing people to hear your thoughts that you don't care about. That's about your faith. That's proselytizing. Jews would never do that. The whole idea is, if being a true light to the nation is using that flashlight again, if you're walking down the street and you're using that light for your benefit, you're shining at the ground and somebody's outside and they're walking in the dark and it's, oh man, he's got a flash. Hey, can I join you? Yeah, come on over. That's how you do it. So in real life, that means you're doing your thing and somebody walks up to you and says, hey man, and respectfully and says, man, I noticed you have the yarmulke thing on. Could you please explain that to me? Then share it with them. Say, hey, well, we believe in God and this is our sign that he's our covering, And that's your opportunity. Don't go around preaching to people. Don't go around forcing people, especially in captive audiences. In fact, there was one thing that happened in the testimony with Gabby Barrett's dad, Blaze. One thing he mentioned was that they, in our phone calls, he would say they would be in the middle of a concert, full-blown concert. I mean, we're talking CMA, like in major concerts, stop a concert in between songs to preach to people, to tell them they're sinners and they need to give their life to Jesus. I'm like, Wait, they paid for a concert, and now that you've got
Wow.
a captive audience, you're going to use that time to force feed them? That's not cool. No one would think that's cool except for them.
Wow. Wow. With everything that you're doing with Tanak Talk, you are raising tremendous awareness. How has your reception been in the Christian community? I recall that you had a job at a bank or something and you ended up getting fired because of it or something. Could you tell us a little bit about your story, what it was like leaving Christianity?
Sure. Now this happened long after this happened a couple of years ago because I had gotten out of Christianity after COVID had hit, and had a friend of mine who was I didn't know he was working for a bank, but he was actually a president of one of the sectors of the bank. His mother was another president of another section of this bank, and then a third guy that they weren't related to was the chief CEO, president of the whole pyramid scheme thing, whatever. Anyway, he knew he was just an old biker dude, so he wasn't Christian at all, and he knew where I was at because he had been here, and I had showed him my Torah scrolls, and he knew that we stood with Judaism. That's our faith is Judaism, even though I'm not Jewish. That's my faith is Judaism. Um, he knew that, and we became friends. He was cool with that. And after COVID hit, he saw me do some tricks with a green screen on another social media thing. He goes, "Man, hey, can you do that like for anybody?" I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." Long story short, they hired me to do to they would have webinars, which all you see is just like the screen, and you might see a little box with the face, whatever. And they hired me
Mhm.
to make it more professional, to make it more something sellable, something that they could like put on the industry line for sort of. And so I sent them a mock up, and they liked it. They hired me. Long story short, that was fine. About a year into it, they wanted me to go on the road with them to on North Dakota for a live event because everything had gotten non-virtual at that point. And so I went with them. And while I was there, the mother of the other Compliance Alliance and Review Alliance, um, she said, "Yeah, my grandson, Chance was the guy who got me hired." He goes, "Yeah," I said, "He just found your YouTube channel because he wants to learn Hebrew." And right away, I was like, "Oh God, here it comes."
Uh-oh.
And she said that they just found it literally like that week. And I was like, "Oh man." I literally told her, I said, "Well," I said, "he doesn't need to have that. I've got some resources I could just give him, you know." I didn't want them to see that at
Oh,
all.
yikes.
And then from that weekend on, I started getting just bad vibes from him. And it got to the point to where they were trying to sabotage everything I did to try to force me to quit because they needed to have a good reason to fire me. They couldn't just fire me for no reason.
Mhm.
And ultimately, that's what it was all about. It was they found my YouTube channel, and next thing I'm not on board with the Jesus thing, and it got to really sour really fast. So
Wow. Wow. Painful. But I'm sure it led you to better things.
actually, the best thing getting fired was like the best thing that could have ever happened. Actually,
Yes, out of the darkness comes the light. All right,
absolutely.
William, let's finish up with one question. What is your biggest dream and what would you like to accomplish in your work with Talk?
My biggest idea for Tanakh Talk, and it's still the same as it was since the day I started it, because I've always been a fan of the website Chabad.org, because there's like limitless resources on
It's
that website.
massive,
They've got
yeah.
videos, they've got audio files, they've got charts, they've got teachings, they've got everything. And it's like, I mean, you can literally go to the weekly Parsha, and there's like 25 lectures on that one weekly Parsha, and I was thinking to myself, man, that would be nice to have Tanakh Talk be built out that way eventually. And so
Wow.
ultimately, that's still the goal. I think I'd like to have all those types of resources available to people for everything, Jewish culture, not just counter missionary work, but just really a full blown everything that's one stop shop, if you will. That's kind of the goal. So more teachers, more time. Um, it's unbelievably time consuming, even what I do. I mean, a lot of people who have shows and webinars or channels, they might do one show a month or one show a week. And I'm doing on average 4 to 5 shows a week plus
Hmm.
scheduled replays, and it's very time consuming. And so if I take on more teachers, which is what I want to do, I'm going to have to figure out a way to rearrange things to make that happen. So, but yeah,
Right.
that's
Wow.
in a nutshell. That's kind of it.
Wow, that's amazing. And Hashem should help you further because what you're doing is super, super special. We actually have one last question. Do
Sure.
you have a message that you would like to leave the Jewish people with?
I would say for sure, take the part very seriously where we spoke earlier about embracing counter missionary work. A lot of people don't want to be bothered by it, but I'm telling you, if you, yeah, if you want to keep your autonomy pure, that's it. Learn it. At least find resources. Make sure that everybody's aware of it. You don't have to learn it, but you have to be aware of it. And make the resources available. If you have somebody who comes there and wants to talk about Jesus, know that Rabbi Singer's books are out there. Get a set, keep them in your synagogue if you have to,
Wow.
And that way you got the
Amazing,
answers.
William. William, thank you so much for joining us today. It was an incredible honor for me to be able to interview you. Deeply, deeply appreciate your work and appreciate everything that you've gone through to bring you to this point. So thank you for everything. And Hashem should continue giving you tremendous strength to keep impacting the world, because you're bringing Mashiach together with everybody else who's involved in this. It's very tremendous.
And for the record, the website was changed about 3 years ago to the spelling is actually TANACHTALK.com. I realize there's a variance on how people spell it even there, because I've got one of my machine that I have actually spells it with a CH and some of them spelled with a KH. But in my TANACHTALK.com is the new website. But the YouTube channel will remain the same, because I think once you change something, it throws a whole lot of dominoes into effect. So I don't want to mess with that. So.
And if you guys did not subscribe to the channel yet, I highly suggest you do. It's a fantastic resource.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, William. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. You too. Been a blessing. My pleasure.
Yeah.